Most people think change begins with motivation. They wait until they feel inspired, disciplined, or ready. They promise themselves that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow they will wake up early. Tomorrow they will stop wasting time. Tomorrow they will eat better, work harder, spend less, focus more, and finally become the person they keep imagining. But then tomorrow arrives, and the old behavior happens almost automatically. That is the problem Charles Duhigg explores in The Power of Habit. His message is simple, but powerful. Much of your life is not controlled by your conscious decisions. It is controlled by habits. A habit is a behavior your brain has learned to run on autopilot. At first, you make a choice. You choose the snack, open the app, avoid the task, start the workout, or reach for your phone. But after repetition, the brain starts saving energy. It stops thinking through every step. The behavior becomes automatic. This is useful because without habits, daily life would be exhausting. Imagine having to consciously decide every tiny action: how to brush your teeth, how to drive, how to make coffee, how to type, how to walk into a room. Habits free the brain from constant decision-making. But that same system can also trap you. A bad habit is not usually a failure of character. It is a loop your brain has practiced until it feels normal. Duhigg explains that every habit has three parts: a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue is the trigger. It tells your brain to start the behavior. It might be a time of day, an emotion, a location, a person, or a preceding action. You feel bored, and you check your phone. You feel stressed, and you eat something sweet. You sit at your desk, and you open social media before starting work. The routine is the behavior itself. It is what you do automatically. The reward is what your brain gets from the behavior. Maybe it is comfort. Maybe it is distraction. Maybe it is a burst of pleasure, a feeling of control, or a short escape from pressure. Once the brain connects cue, routine, and reward, the habit loop becomes stronger. Eventually, the cue creates a craving. You do not just notice the trigger. You start wanting the reward before you even act. This is why habits can feel so hard to break. You are not only fighting behavior. You are fighting a learned expectation of reward. The first big lesson from The Power of Habit is that you cannot change a habit you do not understand. Most people try to attack the routine directly. Stop eating snacks. Stop procrastinating. Stop checking the phone. Stop spending money. But if you do not know the cue and the reward, the habit often comes back in a new form. For example, imagine you buy a cookie every afternoon at work. You tell yourself it is because you love cookies. But when you study the habit, you may discover the real reward is not sugar. It is a break from work, or a chance to talk with coworkers, or a moment of comfort when your energy drops. If the reward is social connection, replacing the cookie with willpower will not solve the loop. But walking to a coworker's desk for a short conversation might. If the reward is energy, tea, or a quick walk might work. If the reward is emotional comfort, you need a healthier source of comfort. This leads to the second lesson. Keep the cue and reward, but change the routine. Duhigg calls this the golden rule of habit change. You do not erase the old loop by force. You redesign it. The cue still appears. The craving still asks for something. But you insert a different behavior that delivers a similar reward. If stress is the cue and relief is the reward, the routine could change from scrolling to walking, breathing, journaling, or calling someone. If boredom is the cue and stimulation is the reward, the routine could change from junk content to a short learning task or a creative break. If finishing dinner is the cue and sweetness is the reward, the routine could change from dessert every night to fruit, tea, or brushing your teeth immediately. The point is not to become perfect. The point is to become strategic. The third lesson is that keystone habits can create chain reactions. A keystone habit is one habit that influences many others. Exercise is a common example. When people start exercising regularly, they often begin eating better, sleeping more consistently, spending more carefully, and feeling more confident. The workout is not magic. It simply creates a new identity and structure that affects other choices. Making your bed can be a keystone habit for some people. Planning tomorrow the night before can be another. Tracking spending, writing a daily priority, or having a family dinner can all become anchor points. The power of a keystone habit is that it gives your life a small center of order. This matters because people often try to change everything at once. They make a giant plan for a completely new life. Then the plan becomes too heavy, and they quit. A keystone habit works differently. It is small enough to repeat, but meaningful enough to influence the rest of the day. The fourth lesson is that belief matters, especially when change becomes difficult. Duhigg shows that many people can change for a while when life is easy. The real test comes when stress returns. When you are tired, disappointed, lonely, or under pressure, the old habit becomes tempting again. In those moments, belief helps you continue. Belief does not mean pretending change is easy. It means believing that a different response is possible, even when the old loop is loud. Often, that belief grows through community. When people see others change, they start believing they can change too. This is why groups, teams, and supportive environments matter. You do not rise only to your goals. You also fall to the habits and systems around you. The fifth lesson is that organizations have habits too. Companies, families, teams, and communities all develop routines. Some are healthy, some are toxic. A workplace may have a habit of avoiding hard conversations. A team may have a habit of blaming instead of learning. A family may have a habit of silence, criticism, or support. These patterns become culture. Changing a group often means changing its routines. What happens when a mistake is made? What gets rewarded? What does everyone do when pressure rises? Those repeated answers become the organization's real values. So how can you use the power of habit today? Choose one habit, not 10. 1. Write down the routine you want to change. Then study it for a few days. What happens right before it? Where are you? What time is it? Who is around? What emotion are you feeling? That is how you find the cue. Then experiment with rewards. If you usually scroll at night, try a walk, music, stretching, reading, or texting a friend. Notice which replacement actually satisfies the craving. You are not guessing. You are testing. Once you know the cue and reward, design a new routine. Make it specific. When I feel stress after lunch, I will walk outside for 5 minutes. When I sit at my desk in the morning, I will write one priority before opening any app. When I finish dinner, I will make tea instead of eating dessert automatically. Then repeat it long enough for the brain to learn the new loop. One of the most memorable parts of the book is that habits do not only live inside individuals. They shape businesses, products, and entire communities. Duhigg explains that companies study routines because routines reveal what people actually do, not just what they say they want. A product succeeds when it fits into a repeated loop. A workplace improves when its repeated responses to pressure become healthier. A team changes when it rewards the right behavior consistently. This is useful because it reminds us that habit change is not just a personal discipline issue. Environment matters. If your phone is beside your bed, the cue is already waiting for you in the morning. If junk food is on the desk, the routine becomes easier to repeat. If your workspace opens directly into distraction, focus has to fight harder than it should. The smarter move is not to rely on heroic willpower. The smarter move is to design the surroundings so the better routine is easier to start. For example, if you want to read every night, leave the book open where you sit down. If you want to exercise in the morning, put your clothes out before bed. If you want to stop checking your phone while working, put it in another room before the work session starts. These tiny environmental changes are not glamorous, but they matter because they change the cue. The same idea applies to good habits. Do not only ask how to stop a bad loop. Ask how to make a useful loop obvious. What cue can start the behavior? What routine is small enough to repeat? What reward will tell your brain, this was worth doing? A strong habit often begins as a tiny promise. Write one paragraph. Walk for 5 minutes. Save one small amount of money. Prepare tomorrow's top priority. The action may look too small to matter, but repetition teaches the brain. Over time, the loop becomes part of how you see yourself. You are not trying to become a reader, a runner, a saver, or a focused person in one dramatic leap. You are giving yourself evidence, day after day. This is the hopeful message of the book. You are not stuck with every pattern you have practiced. Habits are powerful, but they are not destiny. Once you can see the loop, you can change the loop. Your life is not transformed by one dramatic decision. It is shaped by what you repeat. So do not ask only, what do I want to change? Ask, what cue starts this behavior? What reward keeps it alive? And what new routine can give me that reward in a better way? Answer those questions, and change becomes less mysterious. It becomes a system. If you enjoyed this summary, subscribe to One Book in 10 Minutes. We turn the world's most valuable books into clear, practical lessons you can use in real life. One book. 10 minutes. Better you.